This series, which is the Egyptian bats flying, which I did in the studio, I wanted to show the anatomical structure. I think this series is fascinating because when Linnaeus was describing the species, what's fascinating is he placed the bats and the primates and us in the same group. And the reason for that was the extraordinary similarity of the anatomy. So today they're seen to not be relevant in that group because we use DNA sequencing, but at that time they used the anatomy as the primary way in which they identified the grouping. I find that this particular series for me evokes the idea of like a flying machine, a Leonardo da Vinci, maybe a bit like what he imagined. Maybe he used that as his reference. Yeah, I'm often asked actually about, you know, what's the most memorable shoot, and having discussed my fruit bats and how they kind of operate for me visually. Often when you're a photographer, you're often asked, you know, what's the most exciting, what a moment, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most exciting picture. In the case of the bats, I had to go into a cave with 7 million bats, and in it we had these antiquated ammonia masks, and there was this constant drizzle of urine and shit coming from above the cave, and we didn't last very long in there. On the floor were flesh-eating beetles, which were also gnawing away with us. And I had someone trying to hold lights, and we were in there about 10 minutes. It stank, but it was a bit like it was a blanket of bats above us, and we didn't stay there very long. But the smell of it lingered on for ages, and I was actually renting some equipment, which I got back from the place 6 months later, and it still stank of the ammonia. They hadn't got rid of it. And one of the flesh-eating beetles somehow turned up in our bed when we went back to the hotel, which was a bit worrying as well.